to Leo Leonard a little later in the race as it develops. But look at the two BMWs sprinting away to a good start. Bruce Fowler in there and Bruce Anderson as well. That's Neville Crichton leading Kent Bajan. These two, remember, had exactly the same qualifying time, to within 100th of a second. Gary Pedersen in there, up in 5th place in the little Gemco Fiat Ritmo 130R mark. That's a good start. Neville Crichton still holding out. Kent Bajan, Bruce Anderson behind them. Leo Leonard in 4th place. This is where we expect the battle to be, in the front with the two BMWs. If it comes down to a race, I think I'd put my money on Kent Bajan. We've already had a couple of people off the circuit. That's not affecting the front of the field, though. What do you think, Reg Cook? Would you be prepared to have a bet on a race between these two, having qualified the same?
Kent Bajan is a very determined man. They won the Benson Hedges. He won at the Grand Prix of Kovakari. He competed down at Manfield, and if he wins this race, he can win the championship. We shouldn't count out Bruce Anderson either. While he lost his points from illegal exhaust manifolds in previous rounds, if he's on the same number of points as Kent Bajan, and he too will want to win this race. Whoever wins this race out of Kent Bajan or Bruce Anderson, if Leo Leonard isn't in second position, will win the ANZ Touring Car Championship. Kent Bajan trying very hard.
The ideal result at the moment is exactly the way they are. If Kent Bajan wins with Neville Crichton between he and Bruce Anderson, and then Leo Leonard in 4th place, that will win the championship for Kent Bajan. That's exactly the way he wants it. Bajan having got in front of Neville Crichton, and Crichton still sticking to his tail. If it comes down to a race, I would still be prepared to back Kent Bajan, but the two of them are going to battle it out all the way through the race.
Yes, Kent Bajan went to Macau to race his BMW to get some more experience, and he feels that while he was there, he learnt a lot, which should help him have superior performance over
Crichton getting a little sideways there as Kent Bajan comes out of the corner. Bruce Anderson right wide into turn 4, heading up the pit straight now into the big sweeper. This is where Kent Bajan was having some trouble in practice. He was explaining to us that the BMW initially in practice wouldn't go round this sweeper without getting on and off the gas. And David Oxon, I'm sure it's very important that you stay constant on the gas pedal around a constant radius curve.
Well, you're seeing the benefit of Neville's better line around there. He's able to draw alongside, or at least get a bit of advantage on the Tullis car in that area. But certainly that sweeper is an area where you need to apply a gentle amount of throttle and feed it on gradually. If you have to back off, then you lose the inertia and the motion, and then you get Neville, like it is, making a pounce down one side or the other of Kent Bajan.
This is a 24-lap race, and the BMWs are noted for their reliability. Neither of them has had a problem in a race so far this year. Both of them getting shaped up for the Nissan Sport Series later in the year.
Kent Bajan saying last night to us that although he and Neville are very good friends off the circuit, he expected that if they got very close, and now there's a yellow flag out, so we've lost somebody around this corner. Yes, in fact, the car upside down. Too hard to tell from the underpan what it is, but driver's waving his hand, so he's safe and sound. But going back to the lead battle here, Kent said he's quite prepared to mix it with Neville. If the going gets tough, they'll be knocking a few doors and mudguards, and whilst those BMW panels are obviously very expensive, they're prepared to give it all to win this race. It's very important to both of them. Remembering, of course, the first two long-distance races, the B&H Series, were won by the black BMW in your picture. The final race, the big one, was won by Kent Bajan in the white Talus number 3 car. And the most recent grudge matches, that at Manfield and the Grand Prix meeting, again won by Kent Bajan. So Neville really got the bit down between his teeth now, and he's really going to try and push Kent today.
These two have had some amazing battles. They really have had some excellent races, even in the B&H, which is a 6-hour-long race. It was a race right down to the final line, and it came down to one had a quicker pit stop than the other, but they've had superb racing all year. The two of them very, very competitive. As Reg said a little while ago, Kent Bajan went to Macau and got some more experience there racing with the top BMWs in the world, and Neville Crichton has been in Australia doing some racing to hone his skills as well. But the two of them so much quicker than the Falcons, as you can see. Neville Crichton having a go. Not enough time.
Remembering, of course, that whilst the yellow flag is out, and that's the flag that's being waved at the area where we saw the car had turned over, no passing must take place in that area. So Neville is restricted now to passing in 3 corners. He cannot pass on the fast sweeper bend until the accident is removed or the yellow flag has been taken away.
Neville Crichton has just done a 64.1 lap time. So they're on good pace for a 24-lap race. By the way, the car you saw turned over that we just saw the underbelly of was with Jacob in a Laser Sport, which has gone over. He is out and okay.
In fact, I think, Tony, that might be the car that won the Laser Sport race a little earlier on in the hands of John Rainford.
I don't think it'll be winning this one.
Now, these drivers will be out to preserve those tyres, and you see the angle of the cars on the fast turns and the slow turns. These BMWs are very fast, but they're also very hard on their tyres. That is, they overheat the tyres, and any overheating of the tyres can cause a margin to be built up, or should we say, the leading driver could pull away if, in fact, say Neville had overheated his tyres coming off that sweeping turn. Now, here's interesting. Leo Leonard is through now to 3rd place. He's obviously eased back the axles. He's taken a nice line off the grid, but he's forcing his way up to 3rd place now.
Neville Crichton flashing the lights on in the BMW there, trying to get through. There's Leo Leonard in front of Bruce Anderson. I wonder if Bruce Anderson's had a problem of some kind, or if Leo Leonard has just got past him. Certainly, Bruce Anderson was well ahead of him earlier on. Leo Leonard is the man who has to catch up the places. He's into 3rd place now, driving through the traffic just beautifully.
Leo put a new set of tyres on his car for this race and felt that if he got a good chance of winning the championship, that it was worth spending the money, and he felt that the car would handle better here because of the new tyres than it had at Pukekohe.
It's Neville Crichton having a go at Ken Page, who can't do it there. Neck and neck. Have a look at them into this corner, the 2 BMWs. Absolutely side by side. Who's going to get to the corner first? Ken Page braking a little later. He goes up the inside. We'll see if we can have a work with Leo Leonard in 3rd place. Understand, of course, that he's very busy driving. We'll see if he has time to talk to us during the race and what his thoughts are at this stage. Tony Palmer calling Leo Leonard. Can you talk to us at the moment?
Yeah, Leo, Tony.
Leo, obviously you need a better place than the one you've got at the moment. You've got it to 3rd. How does the car go at the moment?
But everything's all right with the car. The temperature's well up, but it's a really hot day. Oil pressure's all right. Just taking it up to 5,500 revs down, 6th gear. Coming up to 5,500, it's about 100 mile an hour. Hard on the brakes because we're going around this big sweeper. On the steering wheel, but it's really hot inside the car here, and the track greasy as anything. Slowed up by a little car here, but we can't help that. It's same for everybody. Into the back straight now, 5,500 revs. Top gear about 110, 120, 130. Right on the brakes here now for the end of the straight. Rover in front of us all crossed up, blocked up his brakes. Hope he lets me through. He cost a lot of time this.
Leo, we noticed a little earlier in one of the earlier races that one of the cars may have left a little oil out there. Are the signs there of oil on the track? It is very slippery, as you told us.
Still got Bruce behind me, giving me a hard time. Back to you, Tony.
Leo Leonard talking to us, doing very, very well to drive and talk to us, give you a little idea of what it's like driving inside one of these big ANZ touring cars. Bruce Anderson, as he said, pushing it very hard now, so he can't talk to us much more.
I noticed sitting on the grid that the crew of Leo Leonard's car were rubbing the stones off the tyres, and it's got to remember that these drivers are driving over curbs. There is stones around on the outside of the circuit, and the front 2 competitors and everybody as well will have to be very careful to keep off the stones and not get punches, because in the Group A races with these tyres so far this season, a lot of leads or a lot of positions in the race have been changed with the punches. So while we have Ken Bajan in the lead at the moment, a puncher of any sort would put paid to his chances in the championship.
This is the race now for Ken Bajan leading to win this championship.
Bit of a lock-up there for Neville Crichton. This is reminiscent of a fault that appeared in the car when Wayne Wilkinson was driving it at Mansfield in the long-distance race, when he had trouble adjusting the brake balance. And we were talking about this with Formula Pacifics. These cars have also this cockpit adjustable brake bias, where they can put more or less braking efficiency on the front or rear as the driver chooses. And he's probably adjusting that right at this moment.
at the moment he would have too much bias on the front. That's why his fronts are locking up, so you have to adjust it to get a bit more in the rear. But earlier on in the race, it appeared that the BMW of Neville Crichton, as we can see it now, is definitely handling better in the corners than Kent Bajan's. But as the race goes on and the tyres get hot, these tyres are soft compound and the ability to corner on them changes. And so while one car might have an advantage early on in the race, as the race progresses, then that advantage sometimes disappears. And it appears that Neville Crichton's car isn't handling quite as well as Kent Bajan at the moment, and that's probably because his tyres have got hotter.
Such is the pace of development of this Group A category. In fact, one of the cars which Neville and Kent Bajan will be coming up to lap, the yellow, white and red car immediately in front of them is a Commodore. In fact, it's Veen Smith's Commodore, and it was the one formerly driven by Robbie Francevic and John Morton, and won a convincing B&H race here just 2 years ago. Look at the difference now, 2 years on. Group A BMW cars lapping competitors which were winning races just 2 years ago.
The Group A ANZ Touring Car lap record round the circuit is 70.1 seconds. We heard before that Neville Crichton was doing 64.1, so they've gained 6 seconds in a year. 4 seconds of this is probably with tyres, but 2 seconds a lap would be the difference, the superiority of the BMW over the lap record holder, which was Leo Leonard in his Falcon last year.
Now the championship points are awarded as 9 for first, 6 for second, 4 for third in the previous rounds, and today's points are double. So if they had been normal points on this basis of the finish now, Leo Leonard would in fact have finished 2 points ahead of Kent Bajan, but because it's double points today, Kent Bajan, if he stays where he is, will win the championship from Leo Leonard in second place.
We're very lucky to have Red Cook here. He's a sort of a human computer, and he gives hand signals and says no and yes to the right questions at the right time, or at least some of the time. But anyway, back to the race, and we obviously saw the lovely little Fiat of Gary Pedersen. Gary and the Dave McMillan used this car to some effect in the long distance series, the little 130. They are in fact leading their category, the up to 2 litre Group A category, handsomely. And in fact, Gary wanted to mix it a little bit better or a bit closer to the bigger cars. He's now, there he is in our screen, little Contour sponsored 130 Abarth Fiat. So he's comfortably leading his category, but certainly can't mix it with these big Fords. Now, in fact, Gary may have a problem. He's right to the outside and a lot slower than he normally would be. Remembering he had this axle trouble at Pukekohe. However, it's a bit hard to say. He's making room for the faster cars to come through, but I wouldn't expect him to concede so much ground to that Bill McFarlane car.
Certainly not like Gary Pedersen to move that far across.
Gary Pedersen's a hard driver and he isn't going to let anyone pass easily. He's definitely got a problem inside that car. I would say it's very similar to the axle problem he had at Pukekohe, because he's a bit scared to put the power on hard and push from side to side.
Just spare a thought for Gary Pedersen in that car. Imagine what it's like trying to drive a 2-litre twin-cam front-drive car that develops 190 or 200 horsepower with one axle broken. I can assure you from the descriptions I heard from Gary Pedersen and Dave McMillan, it was quite a hand. Just working out those points for you, if the finish the way they are, you have a problem there with Kent Bajan, was it?
Gary Pedersen, in fact, will be fit, but Kent is easing away from Neville Crichton now. He's got this race firmly in control, so he will be really trying to preserve his tyres and his brakes. Obviously, the power he's able to regulate very easily without straining that wonderful BMW engine, but he'll be cautious on these tyres without turning in too harshly on ruining the outside tyres. It's the right front and the right rear tyre that will be the problem if it is overheated.
Just working out the points. If Kent Bajan finishes where he is, with Neville Crichton between he and Leo Leonard, the points will end up with Kent Bajan on 36 and Leo Leonard on 35. That's so long as Neville Crichton stays between the two of them. Just over the halfway stage now in this 24-lap race, still Kent Bajan leading from Neville Crichton, Leo Leonard in third place and Bruce Anderson in fourth. In fact, we think we've had an update. Bruce Anderson will be past Leo Leonard now and up to third place, but we'll check on this. We'll see when we get into camera. There's Bajan round now. There's Neville Crichton coming behind him. Now looking for the first of the Falcons. Is it still Leo Leonard? No, that's not the Falcon there. We've got the wrong car. Just looking back now and waiting for the two Falcons. Bruce Anderson's is the big pine pack one. That looks like Leo Leonard through. Leo Leonard. This is third place. Paget in the lead, Crichton behind him. That's third place, Leo Leonard, and Bruce Anderson back in fourth place by quite a margin.
Certainly since these cars have become, these two Ford Falcons have become technically equal, and that is in the most recent races we know that they have become so. Leo Leonard seems to have slightly the upper hand. We can remember back in the early ANZ races, Bruce Anderson was winning comfortably. And there's a really tight manoeuvre by Leo Leonard round the outside of a little Avenger there. It's hard to be pumping, holding onto that big Ford round the outside on those marbles, I would think, Tony.
Yeah, Leonard just drives so well through traffic.
Yes, it should be noted that these cars once again are on slicks, and they're driving around cars that are on radial type, which are sort of the New Zealand assemble type cars, the Laser Sports and Nissan Bluebirds, the Telstars and Trediers and Mirages are all on radial tyres as compared to these big cars which are on slicks, and the handling characteristics are totally different. What Leo did then was not an easy manoeuvre.
In fact, we think that Gary Pedersen rejoined the race from his pit stop and stopped on the back straight. In fact, there is Gary. He's looking at something in the seat. Maybe he's dropped his nose. It's a marshal. Just making sure. Probably Gary's wanting to get the car a little bit further off the straight. It's a bit of a hazard there. But unfortunately, the axles that broke in the earlier rounds with Gary and Dave, unfortunately, Gary wasn't able to get a genuine axle out from Italy and has had a New Zealand-made hand-turned axle installed. We would think that would be the problem.
So Leo Leonard still in third place. First place still held by Kent Paget. If he can hang on to the end of the race, he has won the ANZ Touring Car Championship. Arriving late on the scene, he didn't compete in the early rounds. He didn't go down to Wigram. And since he rejoined the series, or joined it late, the North Island rounds, Kent Paget has driven beautifully. He has been unbeatable so far. The only competition he has had is from Neville Crichton in a similar car, and if he stays where he is, as we said, it will be the ANZ Touring Car Championship to Kent Paget.
Kent Paget's car this weekend running for the first time a brand new BMW 635 racing engine, or race prepared engine. It was actually taken to Macau for one of the international stars in the Group A race there. Kent negotiated to bring it out here. Such is his desire to do well in the big Nissan Sport race later in the month of January in the streets of Wellington. But this is the ideal warm-up for any driver who can say, well, he's won the races that mattered in the lead-up to the big street race, and Kent will be very proud of this very polished effort he's putting in.
He certainly has become a very polished driver in recent months, Kent Paget. When he got the BMW, there were a lot of people who wondered how well he would go. Everybody knew that the car was competitive, but Kent Paget's driving has become more and more professional, particularly over this series, and he really has looked like a winner, and it bodes well for 26 days from now, when we have the Wellington Street Race, where the two BMWs will be joined by another two, and it will be very exciting competition. These BMWs very obviously so much quicker than the Falcons and Commodores in this ANZ Touring Car class, which has become Group A. An enormous range of vehicles in there and a huge range of time gap between them. Leo Leonard still hanging on to third place, the best performed of the older style cars competing in Group A now.
Whilst we're talking about the Commodores being slow, during the races that we're going to see in a couple of months' time, there's a Commodore coming over driven by Peter Brock and Larry Perkins, so I wouldn't expect that Commodore to get beaten by as much as these ones are here today.
That is the new homologated BK Commodore that Peter Brock intends bringing up. But Kent Paget still wandering away with this race and building up quite a substantial lead from Kent Paget still holding on to that lead. Neville Crichton still second. Kent Paget still hanging on. There's our third place man, Leo Leonard, looking back now to Bruce Anderson to see how far he is behind. As Leo Leonard is up to the sweeper, waiting now for third place to come round. There is Bruce Anderson. That's the gap between Leo Leonard and Bruce Anderson, between third and fourth places. see if we can get another word with Leo Leonard as the race has settled down just a little and his position a little more consolidated than it was earlier on. Tony Palmer calling Leo Leonard. Can you talk to us now? Bit busy there at the moment, Leo, by the looks. Try and get a word with him if we can. But obviously, it's a difficult job to drive in a race like this and to talk to us as well.
This is lap 18 of the 24-lap ANZ Touring Car Championship final. Kent Bagent leading from Neville Crichton in the John Andrew Cars 635 BMW. Leo Leonard in his 5.7 litre Ford Falcon. And fourth, Bruce Anderson in a similar machine, also 5.7 litres.
Fifth, I think, would be Bruce Fowler and his Commodore.
On lap 20 now, still trying to get a word with Leo Leonard, but it seems as though he's a little busy to talk to us, quite understandably, in the race. Kent Bagent still holding off Neville Crichton. Leo Leonard third, Bruce Anderson fourth. 4 laps remain. It really has been excellent for the crowds to see these BMW 635 CSIs in the country. They have not one dominating the series, but 2 of them fighting it out throughout. Benson and Hedges races and in the ANZ Touring Car Series, the crowds have enjoyed a wonderful spectacle and seen these BMWs really bring down the lap times over last year.
Well, presuming the positions stayed as they are at the present point, if Kent Bagent was to win this race, with double points, he would go from 18 to 36, and that would give him the championship. Presuming Leo Leonard stays in third place, he would go to 35 points. 33 points. 85, 33 points. So it's very close. A long way to go in terms of tyre life yet. But that, in fact, Kent will be hoping that Neville stays just about that distance. Not too much pressure on him, but he'll also be hoping that he stays in the race, because if Neville was to go out of the race for any reason, Leo Leonard will become the ANZ champion by taking a second place. So these boys are really watching for it now. Kent can't do any more than win, and he's doing that, or at least he's leading this race very well. He can't do any more, so I suppose Neville Crichton holds the championship in his grasp to whoever is likely to get it.
Well, neither of these BMWs can afford to make mistakes. The tyres are very hot, and puncture will be the only thing that will affect it. The reliability of the cars is so good. So I'm sure that Neville Crichton will be doing his best to win the race, and also, if he can't do that, protect Kent Bagent to help him win the championship.
Okay, I understand Leo Leonard is trying to talk to us at the moment. Calling Leo Leonard, can you hear us at the moment?
That bottom side here, I've been having trouble with the soles of my shoes melting, and the feet have been sticking to the throttle pedal.
Just trying to translate what you're saying. You're a little vague there, Leo. I'm sorry, what was the problem you're having?
Hot day like this, car starts under steer and going into the corner, and over steer coming out of the corner. But I guess it's the same for everybody.
Okay, Leo, it looks as though if you can hold your place there with Neville Crichton between you and Kent Bagent, you're going to end up second in the series. There's not a lot you can do about it, I guess.
No problem.
Leo
It's not going to be good enough for us. We're a bit disappointed about that, but we've done our best.
Leo, thanks for talking to us. Over and out. Leo Leonard talking to us there while he's driving in the race. He knows the situation as well as anybody, that he's going to lose the series by a couple of points from Kent Bagent, so long as Neville Crichton stays between the two of them. Coming down to the final laps in the race now. Kent Bagent just holding off Neville Crichton. This is becoming quite a battle. Back to the way it was in the early laps. Neville Crichton's going to have a late go at him. He's got nothing to lose. He's got championship points that are way down on Kent Bagent's.
Notice that Neville Crichton being able to use more circuit than Kent. Kent having to block him out of it is having to do that means he's going slower. Kent may be getting a bit rattled. The championship's at stake. There's only a couple of laps to go, and the other BMW is so close to him. Doesn't appear to be using the circuit quite as well as he was earlier on in the race.
Those tyres are getting very sticky on, or should we say very hot, and translating what Leo said on his recent talk, he said it was understeering going into the corner and oversteering coming out. And I think, Reg, that would suggest that his rear tyres are starting to overheat, and we must wonder then, how are these tyres holding up on these BMWs?
Well, we're on the last lap, so they don't have to worry too much. Kent will not be wanting to make any mistakes. He'll be careful as he passes other cars, and he's got half a lap to go.
Okay, on the last half of the last lap to decide the ANZ Touring Car Championship. Kent Bajan coming round, making a late charge in the series. If he comes down and takes the checkered flag, he wins the series overall, provided that Neville Crichton stays between he and Leo Leonard in third place. Kent Bajan almost finished the race now. Neville Crichton making a late charge on him, but not quick enough. Coming down this time with the checkered flag. If our lap count is right, this is the checkered flag this time for Kent Bajan and the championship win of the ANZ Touring Cars. Kent Bajan wins.
We will
in
see
second place is Leo Leonard, who finished third in this race, and Neville Crichton making it possible for Kent Bajan to win by staying between the two of them.
Third will probably be Bruce Anderson in the championship, and I'm sure when we see Kent Bajan, we'll see an arm out the window, an absolutely elated driver.
Well, I know from talking to Kent in the last couple of days that this has been very, very important to him psychologically as a build-up to the Nissan Sport races. Leo Leonard did all the work early on in the South Island, and the car wasn't perhaps as competitive as they would have liked, and the BMW is just simply more competitive as Bruce Anderson comes through for fourth place in the race. But Kent Bajan, I'm sure, will be feeling $1 million, and there might be a little bit of champagne flowing tonight as Kent Bajan takes out the ANZ Touring Car Championship overall by 2 points from Leo Leonard. What a wonderful way
Win the series.